7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Project Egg Show. Today, we have the honor of speaking with Jim Palmer, the Dream Business Coach. Jim is a marketing and business building expert and in-demand coach. He's the founder of the Dream Business Academy and Dream Business Coaching and Mastermind program. He's the host of Dream Business Coach TV, the hit weekly web TV show watched by thousands of entrepreneurs and small business owners. That's a lot of people. And he is also the host of Dream Business Radio, a weekly podcast based on Jim's unique brand of smart marketing and business building strategies. Jim is best known internationally as the Dream Business Coach and creator of No Hassle Newsletters, the ultimate done-for-you newsletter marketing program used by hundreds of clients in 9 countries. That's a lot of countries as well. Jim has also done a lot of incredible things that I can't possibly cover in this intro, but to not keep you waiting any longer for the moment that I know that you're waiting for, please put your digital hands together for Jim. How you doing today, Jim?
I'm good. I would have to believe I'm the first guest coming to you live from a boat.
Yes, you are. So we're making Project Egg history. That is amazing.
We're on our boat called the Floating Home. We've actually, as you and I are doing this, Ben, we just celebrated 2 years living and working full time on this boat.
Now that is unique. That is really cool. So I appreciate you making time and asking the wind to settle down out there so that we could do a live.
We're actually in a marina right now, but actually the wind is actually better if you're out there because the boat will adjust. When you're tied to a dock and the wind happens to be at your beam, which is the side of the boat, it'll just rock you. Right now it's beautiful, it's calm, and the sun is out. So life is good.
Perfect. So Jim, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. Let's jump right in.
Okay.
What is your story?
What is my story? Well, in the short version, which is somebody's going to say, well, that's not very short, but in 2000, I was 41 years old, and I was VP of marketing for a training company. Kind of one of my goals, my own interpersonal goal, I wanted to be a VP by the time I was 40, so I did that. Then the company eliminated the position that I occupied in their company, so I found myself out of work for the first time since I was 15. I had 4 teenagers at home at the time, and I didn't, as much as I had an entrepreneurial itch that I thought would be scratched someday, that was not the time to do it. So I set about finding my next gig. And a year and a half later, I was still unemployed. My once healthy confidence and self-esteem just kind of crush. Really, honestly, I felt like quite the loser after that point. And 12 months into my year and a half of unemployment, I was first diagnosed with cancer. So very, very low point. And then, Ben, right at the end of August in 2001, I got a consulting job, which led to a job offer. While I was figuring out surgery and everything else, I'm like, trying to figure out, how to be alive and this, but I'm also going for job interviews. I'm pretty sure if you looked up stress in the dictionary, you would have seen my picture at that point. And, but I got a job offer literally the day before I went into surgery. And then I remember being at home early September on the couch watching TV, and I saw September 11th happen, like, millions of Americans. And a couple of weeks after that, Ben, this great job offer that I'd received was rescinded because it was really, I was going to be starting a new franchise company, an arm for a chain of stores, how to franchise. That's one of the things I did. And so he said, Jim, I'm sure you can understand, but we got to put our growth plans on hold. So probably the lowest point in my life, Ben, was that time period. And I really needed some guidance. I prayed, like, what am I supposed to do? And I was told to become an entrepreneur. And one of the things I did when I became a manager of a bicycle store when I was 21 years old, I created a newsletter. Very simple, typewriter, no computers, Ben. I mean, the mailing list was not on a computer. It was like these cards which had like ink on the back. It was crazy, Flintstones era. And so I created this homemade newsletter and mailed it out to, I think, about 1,200 customers of this bike store. And all of a sudden, customers that we haven't seen in a while started coming in and purchasing And then some Saturday, not a bunch, maybe 2 or 3 people came in and said, hey, my neighbor said, this is where I should buy a bike. And I'm saying, oh my God, I sent out this little printed newsletter and we're starting to get more business. So I did what any smart marketer would do, Ben. I sent out another one and another one. So fast forward to this point, I said, well, what am I going to do? I knew I'd be a consultant, a marketer, but I needed cash right away. So I started a newsletter business. I started creating newsletters for companies and organizations, nonprofits, chambers of commerce. And that kind of took off. 5 years later, I was doing multiple six figures, but I was plateauing because I was the typical small business owner. I was writing, designing the newsletters, overseeing the printing and mailing, answering the phones, delivering the news. I mean, if it had to be done in that business, I was doing it. I was really, working 80 hours a week, happy that I had an income, but still it's like, where am I going from here? So that was about the 2006 timeframe. That's when I first met Dan Kennedy from Laser Kennedy World. And Dan just changed my life. I mean, I went from being a small business owner to an entrepreneur. And if you want to know what the difference is, read his book, watch my videos or something, because an entrepreneur is quite different than a small business owner. And I started looking at, I discovered internet marketing, direct response copywriting. And in late 2007, then I launched my second business, which is still one of my flagships today, called No Hassle Newsletters, where I was offering content and done for you templates that people could use. And so I went from creating a newsletter, being paid by one customer at a time, and then hoping, wishing, and praying they'd come back and order it again. I started creating this content that literally grew to hundreds of people. And I had no idea there were 9 English-speaking countries that were ordering, I mean, all over the planet, which was fun. One of my friends goes, hey, you're international. I'm like, really? So became the newsletter guru and started promoting myself that way. I then created Concierge, Print, Mail, and Demand, No Hassle Social Media, Custom Article Generator, Success Advantage Publishing. In about 2009 timeframe, I'm still going to a lot of events, and some people come up, Jim, how are you creating all these businesses? And that's when I started my coaching business, which is about 10 years ago, which today is what I do. I have No Hassle Newsletters, the printing business, Custom Article Generator, and my publishing for my training programs, my books, etc. But I've created a business model where I have a team of, it's down to about 8, I think now, virtual assistants that run the internet companies. And I am just the coach. So I work 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I have about 32 coaching clients in Dream Business Mastermind. And Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I get on my camera like I'm with you and I dispense my advice. And then Friday through Monday, Stephanie and I can have fun on the floating home here.
So why did you decide to go fully mobile and start living on a boat?
So when we purchased a 30-foot boat it'll be 5 years ago now, and just fell in love with boating. And so when Stephanie would get out of work from her job on Friday, we'd zoom down to the marina and just loving life. And then, so a couple of years ago, Stephanie retired from, actually she doesn't use the word retired. She left her job after 25 years in the childcare industry, very high stress job, and wasn't sure what she was going to do next. And since I can do my job anywhere I've got internet or a phone line, we started figuring out, we raised 4 kids in this home. We were almost in that home about 29 years, acre and a half of grass. Kids were all grown and gone. Both girls are married, boys are on their own. It's like, I really don't want to cut grass anymore. I don't want to shovel driveways in the winter, but yet we weren't ready to move into a townhouse, which is one step away from the retirement community, right? And one day Stephanie literally came home and said, hey, what if we live on a boat? To which I replied, the famous line from Jaws, well, we're going to need a bigger boat. So we sold, our 30-foot boat and our home and bought this boat, which is 50 feet. And that's what started this incredible journey. We've been up and down the coast 2 times. We've gone to New England once. In about 30 days from today, we're going up to New England for the summer. One of our daughters and 2 grandkids live up in Rhode Island. So we just take our lines and we go.
So let's jump back into your history before you were 40. What's that story?
I've always worked for entrepreneurs, which is where my entrepreneurial tendency is. I got a job when I was 15 working in a bicycle store. Um, Not that I enjoyed bicycles that much, but it was the closest business to the high school I went to, and I had to walk there. And I told my mom and dad after I got my license, I want to have a car. Well, you better get a job. So I got a job and blew all that money on records. There were vinyl things about this big, right? And I just started working. I did go to college for 1 year, and then my parents moved, and ultimately I really dug working and advancing with the different companies. And so I kind of left school and I got married at 21, I had my first of 4 kids at 23. And so then a job which earned a good salary really became important. So I just started rising up in different places and really going for just always, which was one of the things which it was not obvious, but it became the title of actually my last book was Just Say Yes. Every time one of the people I was working for needed something, say, Jim, we're going to franchise. Do you ever do a program? Can you create a training program for it? Sure, I can do that. I had no idea how to do that. Hey, Jim, we need this, that, and nothing. Can you do that? Yes, I can do that. So I figured out when I was writing that book, Just Say Yes, I figured out I've been saying yes my whole life and then figuring it out. I've never driven a 50-foot boat with 2 big diesel engines before, but I just said yes and we're figuring it out. I never went to coaching school, but I just said, yeah, I'll coach you, and I figured it out, right? So just the ability to just say yes was very important, and that was pretty much my career up until, when I lost my job. Just kept saying yes to whatever needed to be done.
You mentioned when you were 15 and you had your first job that you spent most of your money on records.
Yeah.
And I see you have that guitar back there. It's a very nice looking guitar. Is music an important part of your life?
It really is. Always been into music. I was in a high school band. I played the drums. And then when I moved out of my parents' house, I couldn't take drums. So I sold my drums and bought a used guitar and learned how to play that. This guitar here is actually given to me as a gift by one of my clients that actually, I don't know if you can tell, but that logo, it says Living the Dream Business Academy. That was the logo for my last Dream Business Academy in San Diego. Guy Phil Brakefield walks up on stage and gives that to me. And I almost started bawling. It was so cool. And but my son's a musician, producer, plays everything, writes music and stuff. So when we moved out of our house, Ben, I had a record collection which was probably about 300 albums. And a friend of mine said he has a friend who was down on his luck, and the only thing that really brought joy to his life was every Saturday night spinning records. So I gave him my whole collection, which really was really made me feel good.
Wow. Why was music so important to you?
I don't know. I mean, it's like, back in the day, this is pretty weird. When the Monkees came on, I forget how old I was. I was probably 8 or 10, I would think. But man, I wanted to play the drums like Mickey Dolenz. And when I started getting some money together, I think I had about $150 when I was 13. Told my parents I wanted to buy a drum set. My dad goes, "You're not buying a drum set. It's going to sit in your room like some kind of war monument or something." You'd say war, but something to hang your clothes on or whatever. And so I went behind his back and bought the drums. And then actually I taught myself how to play them. And I was playing the band for about 4 years or so. And well, different bands, but I had a hell of a good time doing it, which is honestly why I'm half deaf today, is because I wore headphones like you have, the full ones. And I turned the music up so loud so I could drum and hear the music. So really shot my hearing.
What was that? Do you feel like some of the things that you did as a kid, like going out and making the money to buy your drum set, and even though I'm assuming your father was a role model to you, even though he said no, you still went and did it anyways. Do you feel like that was an early manifestation of your entrepreneurship or your entrepreneurial spirit?
Yeah, I mean, I never thought of us as being poor, and I don't think we were poor, but I mean, I know now that my parents saved all year just to take us on a very basic vacation, one of the great things, if there is that, for me being unemployed for a year and a half, my one son was 15, another son was 17, and my girls were 13. So my girls immediately started babysitting, and a year later, one of them got a job in an ice cream shop. And so they knew that if they wanted something, if there was any extra money for going to the mall or to the movies, they had to earn it, right? So Not that we just gave money away freely, even when I was working, but it really taught them. It was really a good lesson, I think, Ben. And my parents, they were fine parents, but there was never like, oh, sure, Jim, go buy drums. Use my credit card. I had to work for pretty much all the extra stuff that I wanted.
As you were getting into the business world, what really attracted you as far as the skill sets? I mean, I know you talked about the newsletter. Did you have a proficiency in writing, or was it about sales? Like, where did your talent really shine through?
Well, when I became a manager at 21 of this bicycle store, part of my salary was that I would be paid a percentage of the profit. So it wasn't just, I think I made like $300 a week. But if I wanted more than that, which was quite essential, I mean, it's hard to live on 15 grand, right? Especially when you're starting to have a family. So I wanted to grow this business. So number one, I got very good at sales. I actually bought a sales training course on VCR tape, and I learned it. And then I started training some of the other guys at the store, and we started putting in sales goals. We actually took that business, Ben, from $280,000 to $1 million in a little less than 4 years by becoming really great at sales. And then, of course, marketing. I learned how to bring more customers back. So that's where that all came from. Even though I was technically working for somebody else, it was an absentee owner, and I was really running that business. So that really appealed to me. And I just knew that, man, I could do this on my own. But then again, raising the 4 kids, it never seemed to be the opportunity to go strike out on my own until my job was gone. And even then I didn't say, well, I better go do it now, because I didn't have any money and I was broke, So then finally I just decided to go for it.
What were some of so you mentioned sales and marketing.
Mm-hmm.
In those first 40 years of your life, what were some of the other takeaways that you learned from being like an entrepreneur?
My dad was, it's interesting how your dad teaches you stuff and you don't appreciate it when it happens. But there was a moment where I was working for this business, and the one I mentioned, and he's going to start franchising it. So here I am. I'm going to work at like 6:30 in the morning, not getting home till 7, and I'm just busting hump, doing it willingly because I want to keep growing, become more valuable, keep earning more money. But the owner, who was a decent guy, was always short on praise, in my opinion. And I remember kind of bitching to my dad about that. And he goes, let me ask you a question. Do you know you're doing a good job? I said, yeah. He goes, that should be all you need. And I thought, he's right, but I'd still like to have praise from John, but he's right. You know what I mean? And it's funny. Some of the things I will say to even my clients, or certainly to my kids, reflect that. In fact, my oldest boy at one point said something very similar. I said, look, you just keep working hard, doing what you're doing, and that should be enough for you. It's nice to get recognized, but you can't always go, hey, look at me, I'm doing a good job. In reality, the company hired you to do a good job. So doing a good job is not something extra. It's what you should do anyway. You know what I mean? So there's a lot, and I think that's part of being an entrepreneur. When you become an entrepreneur, there's nobody that's going to force you to do anything. And by the same token, there's nobody that's going to chastise you for not doing something you should be doing. It's one of the great lessons I teach my clients, because I had a massive fear of public speaking. I mean, it almost held me back in high school because I just could not get in front of the room and speak. And then as I was growing my businesses, I kept getting invitations to speak on newsletter marketing. And then after I wrote my first book, and you talk about challenges, Ben, I always joke around that I was horribly challenged with the English language, that I've written 12 books. And thank God I know how to hire a very good editor, because she takes my words and my thoughts and my strategies and just makes it sound like I passed the 6th grade. But so you can find people to do that. But yeah, when I started getting invitations to speak, and I would, for a few years, I would say, hey, thanks. I really appreciate that. I'm flattered. I'm really busy right now. I'm traveling. I'm doing blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to have to pass. And in full disclosure, that was me being chicken, you know what, because I just didn't want to do it. But there was a point in my business that I had really grown pretty nicely, but I was again peaking. And I don't know if this would be a good place to say this, but it's segueing in my mind. So I call it my most embarrassing moment as an entrepreneur. Do you want me to share that?
Absolutely.
I didn't think you'd say no. So I put myself into this mastermind group. And I knew for a fact that I was probably not the sharpest knife in the drawer. Not that I have anything wrong, but I think, oh my God, these guys are like stellar, right? And this is when I was starting my coaching program. And I knew one of the people in that coaching program was doing about $2 million a year. So he was like a rock star to me. And on a break, he pulled me aside, which is the saving grace that he didn't do it in front of the group. So on a break, he pulls me aside, Ben, and he goes, so Jim, I'm aware you want to have a high-powered coaching program, maybe even like mine or some of the other people in this room, but I got a question for you. I said, sure. And I'm getting ready. I think he's going to dispense some great wisdom on me. And I'm like, yeah, sure, what? And he goes, oh, how is it that you think you're entitled to establish and achieve the same level of success as some of the people in this room, perhaps myself? And I see what you're doing, but Jim, I'm also aware of what you're not doing to grow your business. And how is it that you think you're able to get where everybody else is, but you're not willing to do the things that we've done? How does that work for you, Jim? And Ben, it was a moment where I turned beet red. I'm quite sure I could feel my face all flush. And I don't exactly remember what I said, but I remember flying home from California. I lived in Pennsylvania at the time, just cursing myself out the whole way. That will never happen again. And I literally, which is what my book decides about. It's literally, I identified all the fears and self-limiting beliefs and thoughts and head trash that was holding me back. And I set about to conquer every one of them. So I can get up in a moment's notice almost in front of several hundred people or whatever and give a crazy speech. I can jump on, do an interview. I don't know how many people are watching this, but I have no qualms about it whatsoever. And so that was a defining moment for me. And, the people who are trying to achieve a higher level of success, yet they're not willing to do the things that successful people do, it's a very big disconnect. And unless and until they decide I'm going to have to play on the same playing field, I'm going to have to do the same things that they're going to do, maybe then I'll have a much better chance of achieving that kind of income and that kind of success.
That is a fascinating story. And I appreciate you being willing to share that.
Sure.
And it makes me think, and I really want to drill down into, how did you identify that head trash? How did you identify those limiting beliefs, the things that were holding you back? Because what I notice a lot, and I speak to a lot of people, is that most people cannot see what's holding them back. It's like, you don't know what you don't know. So right. How did you kind of peel back that fog, peel back that mist so you could clearly see what was holding you back?
I call it a 3 a.m. holy crap moment, because you could say that, Ben, and everybody who's listening may say, yeah, how do you know when it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you should be sound asleep in your bed and your eyes are wide awake, you're looking up at the dark ceiling and you're going, holy crap, I haven't had a new client in like 6 months. Holy crap, I'm way behind in my rent. Holy crap, everybody's getting paid and except me, and I own the damn, all these holy crap moments, right? I don't have enough money to help my kids with their college or whatever. And what I say is, if you get up at that moment, you go into the bathroom and you look in the mirror at the person staring at you. And I don't just mean like look at your face when you're shaving, look in your eyeballs. It's kind of eerie because you're looking into your soul. And you say to that person, why are you holding me back? You know why you're holding back. Now, I could make all kinds of excuses, but I know for a fact that I was definitely afraid of public speaking. I barely shared it with anybody. I don't even think I shared it with my wife. I just avoided it my whole life, found ways to get out of it. I also figured that if I'm going to write a book, how am I going to do that and just show the whole world with my name on the cover that I'm very challenged with the English language? They're going to think I'm a complete dope and nobody's going to want to do business with me. So my first book took me 18 months, but in reality, Ben, it took me a year to write and 6 months to get the guts to pull the trigger and publish the thing. My last 4 books I wrote and published in 60 days. So one of the things, so I'll peel the onion back for people who still are not getting what I'm saying. That one of the things is you're afraid of what people are going to think about you and say about you. And that is derived from the fear of perfectionism. You feel that I'm not going to move until I'm perfect. And by being as close to perfect as possible, you are going to substantially lessen the opportunity for people to poke fun at you, right? So I'm going to give you an actionable thing you can do. It's not easy, but this is the step that you need to take. You make a choice. You choose that from this day forward, you're going to choose to be judged on the value of the content, the information, and all the things that you do to serve your audience and your customers, and not the imperfect way in which you do it. So I'm quite certain in this interview, I'll probably say something wrong. Maybe I'll scratch myself and it looks inappropriate, or, I know for a fact that as many times as I proofread my last book, as soon as I hit that go button or my editor gets it printed, we've missed a comma. Somehow we've missed SON, it should be SUN, or some other thing is going to be, and that's okay. Because the information in my books is stellar. I fully believe that. And if somebody reads it and just lets go of the occasional gaffe, they're going to really appreciate that. The reality is, especially in social media and in this ever-connected planet, there's going to be plenty of editors who will gladly point out to you, sometimes publicly, on a post, oh, hey, Jim, I like your book, but I thought you'd like to know on page 186, you have a dangling participle. You might want to get your editor to fix that, right? Well, what the hell's a dangling participle, But there are people who will point out your mistakes. You mentioned Dream Business Coach TV. I realize I probably got to edit my thing, because I mostly what I do for videos now is Facebook Live and webinars, but for 6 years, starting in 2009, for 6 years, I did weekly produced videos. First, it was Newsletter Guru TV, then I called it Dream Business Coach. But every week, every Thursday, I put out a new video. Now, I can't tell you how many people would take the occasion to take me to task for things that they thought I was doing wrong. I used to paddle a kayak, and I put my camera, my little flip camera, in the cup holder, and I paddle. And I would just talk to people. Yeah, one thing you want to do in your business is this. I just think you shouldn't stand behind a bookcase and do the headshot every friggin' week. It's boring, right? So I would do different places. And well, Jim, one of the things, I know you like to ride your kayak, but you and I'm doing it right now, it occurs to me, you look away from the camera. And I think that's disrespectful. I'm just giving you this a hint because I like you. You should be looking at the camera the whole time. Well, I'm looking at you, Ben. I should be looking up here, right? But people will take these shots at you. And if you don't steel yourself, like thick skin, if you don't steel yourself to this criticism, it's going to rock you off your plateau, and it's going to really send you reeling, Ben. So you have to realize that there is no such thing as perfection. Waiting for perfection is not only a drag on the progress of your business, it will actually kill your business. So make a choice, decide that you're going to choose to be judged on the quality of the information and content and the value that you're providing, and not the imperfect way in which you do it. And it'll set you free if you can do that.
I love that message of judging yourself by the quality of what you're producing, and maybe judging yourself is the wrong term, but being comfortable and secure with the amount of value that you're providing instead of the delivery.
That's it.
And there's actually a study that I was reading about that's relevant to this that I'd like to share. There was a pottery class or some sort of sculpting class or something like that. And the professor had two groups. One of the groups, he said, I want you to make as many different sculptures as you possibly can. And the other group, he said, I want you to make the best possible sculpture that you possibly can. And I realized I said possibly twice, but you get it.
It's okay. See, you're imperfect, but it's okay. I'm getting your message.
Exact case in point. And so by the end of the semester, the two groups had done just that. One group, they went all in on quantity and they produced and created as much as they could. The other group, they studied, they calculated, they did measurements, they learned, and they only produced one single piece. And by the end of the semester, when the professor went to check their final project, The group that had done more of them and didn't worry about getting it perfect the first time,
Right.
their product at the end was significantly better, objectively and subjectively, by any and all measurements.
Wow.
And then the group who only produced one but took all that time to do one, because the repetition of creating and going through the process over and over and over and over and over again, you'll get way better by just doing it over and over and over again and creating than you will by worrying about getting it perfect the first time. And I think that's in a very similar vein to what you were saying.
Yep. I want to give credit to Bill Glazer, who was the G in the GKIC world. And I was at a conference, and I had already written The Magic of Newsletter Marketing, which is my first book. And I was so afraid to launch it because I just know it's not good, it's dead trash. And Bill goes, I'm writing my book. What was his book? Outrageous Marketing That's Outrageously Successful. I think it's something like that. And he goes, I think it's getting ready to come out. And I say, how many people here have a book in them, or they get a book? And everybody raised their hand. And he goes, let me tell you what the major problem is with you guys that are still writing your books. He goes, when people go into a bookstore and they see my book because the cover catches their attention or the title, and they look at it and they buy the book, two things happen. I'm going to deliver value, and I stand a chance of then having that book reader become a prospective customer. And he goes, as imperfect as my book is, it's building my business far more than your perfect book, which is still sitting in your word processor. And man, I thought, about 1,200 people in here, and I think he's talking to me. So that's when I pulled the trigger and launched my book. And from then on, my next book only took me a year, and then took me 8 months. And then I'm just cranking out a book. Here's, it's the value of the information. It's kind of like, they say people who are afraid of sales. Well, if you discovered either a cure for cancer or how to win the lottery, whatever it is, something that's great and can really help a lot of people, would you just be real meek about it? Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of weird. I figured out how to cure cancer. Don't tell. You know what I mean? Or you say, would you sing it from the mountaintops? You can't believe this. And if you got words wrong, if you spit because you're so excited, whatever it is, I don't know. But I'm trying to be imperfect. But man, this is serious information that can help a lot of people. Would you not do that? And what I tell people who are afraid to step up and sell is, you are not only short-circuiting the success of your business, you are shortchanging the people who you could help. If you really believe you are that good at what you do, then man, the people who don't know about you because you're being a little bit of a wuss, I can say that, and not promoting yourself in a big way, you are harming these people. Look at it like that. So step up,
So I want to play devil's advocate for a second,
okay,
because I think it's fun, and I think, what if there's not enough belief in the ability to provide that value? Somebody may say, I'm not sure if I can really help this person. I mean, I've had some results here, but I'm just not sure. I'm not sure if I'm good enough. That makes it really hard to believe in yourself. And clearly there's a lot of lack of belief in the scenario I was saying. And then it's almost impossible to go sell because you don't have belief in yourself and what you're selling.
There are some things that can be fixed and some things that can't be fixed. I've worked with people who are challenged like that, believing in themselves. I've worked with people who believe in themselves, but have other issues, right? Whether it's perfectionism or, afraid of being criticized. One woman I worked with a few years ago said, it's easy for you, Jim, because every morning I go up and sit in the captain's chair and do my Captain Jim lesson of the day. Yeah, you can just go do that. You throw in your hat and glasses, you're good to go. And this girl said, I have to purdy myself up. I said, well, you don't have to. That's your choice. But I get that, right? But the fact of the matter is, if what you're doing, if you don't think it's really good, then you got to go do something else. My son, one of my sons is a landscaper, and he is so proud of the lines. And we'll drive in a car occasionally. Look at that. Those lines aren't even straight. He totally takes so much pride in how, and he knows it and he believes it because it's like a craft to him. And I know with my editor, her name is Ann, been with me the whole time. I've had her do a number of my clients' books and things like that. She is so good at what she does. Now, she's not out there singing from a bullhorn, But yet she will tell you, oh, Jim, believe me, this book is going to rock. I'm going to rock the world with this, but believe me, you have no worries. Like, she'll phrase it differently. I'll be a little more out there, but she totally knows this is her skill and this is her wheelhouse. So if you're an entrepreneur, and here's the other thing, ADD kicking in. Here's the other thing. If you come across to a prospective client as being uncertain, they're going to smell that a mile away, because they're thinking all you're doing is going for the sale. It's almost like they'll smell fear. And believe me, money is always moving. In any economy, money is moving. If you don't believe that, then go to a marina and look at how many boats, which are big. Go to a private airport. Go to a really nice hotel. I mean, even during the worst recession, money's moving. It may move in smaller circles or to a different degree, but money's always moving in the economy, and it's always moving to where there's the most value. And believe me, there's two things that every customer wants, and I don't care if you sell a product or a service. Listen to me on this. Your customers want hope and they want certainty. They want hope that whatever pain they have, whether it's lack of sales, lack of traffic, a backache, eye strain, whatever it is that you do, they want hope that there's relief, that you can fix it. And they want to be certain that if I say yes to you and give you some of my hard-earned dollars, you're going to deliver for me. So you have to deliver hope and certainty. It's one of the things I work on with my clients. Look, I can't make you better at what you do. I mean, I've helped doctors double the size of their practice. I have no clue what these doctors do, but I could help them come across as delivering hope and certainty to people who are reaching out to them, so they're in demand instead of just, oh boy, I need some new patients, right? So it is about hope and certainty. So you do, to a degree, you can learn how to be, some people who are on the other end of the spectrum might call it egotistical or so full of yourself. I'm full of myself because I'm really good at what I do. But I also know that I have a God-given skill and talent for marketing. I now believe I have a God-given skill for being a good marketer, but also a good coach, because I know how to help people. And one of the ways I do that is I bring all my past. So what I tell people who are afraid of public speaking or can't write a book or don't want to jump on and do videos or do interviews, I've done that all. So they can't hide from me, Ben, right? So it's like, it's one of my big hangups, because the coaching space is very crowded with people who are hiding behind the wizard's curtain. There's people who will come out there and say, oh, I can help you have a 6 or 7 figure business, but they haven't earned 50 grand themselves yet. I think that's wrong. I think if you're going to hire a coach or work with a mentor, for goodness sakes, you should make sure they've done for themselves what they're going to teach you to do, right?
Agreed.
And so if you get with somebody like that, so, I mean, I know this guy who does crazy good book launches. He doesn't even promote it. I just got him a new client. It's one of my clients. I need a book launch. Oh, you're going to go to this guy here because he's crazy good at it. So he gets like referrals and people just keep shoving him. But he is that good. And if you talk to him in a conversation, he says, yeah, I'm really good. I don't know. I figured this out. That's confidence. And people, as I say, they want hope and certainty. So somewhere you have to drill down. So I guess in your question there, Ben, what happens to people who, if they say, well, I think I'm good at that, you better find something you are good at, because it is not easy creating a business. It's not easy times 2 to create a 6-figure business. And it's not easy times 10 to create a high 6 or a 7-figure business. You have to be firing on all cylinders. Confidence in what you do and the product and service you deliver, that's right at the top of the heap.
I think that's profound, because if you really don't believe in what you're doing, then it's probably just because you're not doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And one thing that I will say, and this is a mistake that I made early on in my business. I'm talking maybe 3 or 4 years ago now, that I would love to help somebody not make this mistake. I started off doing social media marketing.
Okay.
Specifically social media management, where I said, I will post for you 2 times a week on one platform for a certain amount, for $400. This is back in 2015. And that is something that you can absolutely deliver on 100% of that. Like, for sure that you can definitely post something on social media 2 times a week you know, on a platform. Like that is something that you can deliver with 100% confidence. Okay.
Yep.
Where I made the mistake was trying to diversify the offerings before I had captured every single, client possible in that one particular vertical. And I tried to move into Facebook ads a little too quickly. Now, since then, I've gotten a lot better at it. And, I think everything happens for a reason and has led me to this point. But I try to diversify into Facebook ads. And that's something where it's hard to give like a guaranteed deliverable, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to say, I'm going to get you a 400% ROI where you put in $1 and I will hand you back 4 every time. Like that's difficult. That's hard to pull off, right?
It is.
So for those people who are struggling to find that thing, the one thing where you can really be proud of what you're doing, I would recommend to go try and be the shovel. Go be the shovel that is, I will post for you that you can guarantee handing them something. Like I will post for you 2 times a week. Not I'll get you 400% ROI, because that takes a lot of skill and that's very hard to do. Maybe work up to that, but stick with that one thing that you can promise and that you can deliver on every single time. And there's no doubt in your mind that you can deliver on that.
So sometimes I do an internal debate in my mind when I'm doing these live interviews. Should I share that or not? I'm going to share something with you that this should rock a lot of people's world, okay? Because if you struggle with money, and that's always when you get ready to close or hopefully bring a client in, there's the whole, price, value, money piece. Now, I know for a fact I'm not the most expensive coach out there. I'm not the least expensive, but the line that I'm going to give you, you can adapt just about any business. And before you get to the money issue, it kind of sets it aside in a way that paints a picture of, ooh, I really want that. Should I give that to your audience for free, Ben?
Yeah. Don't burn me with a good time.
So depending how the conversation goes, and I know we're getting to that part of the conversation, I will say, after I've already done a lot of the yeoman's work, and I will probably drop in, I help 2 doctors double the size of practice, and I'll give a few examples which paint a broad-based picture that I'm not just an internet marketing guy. And I said, what the reality is, I know we're probably going to discuss the options at first, but here's the reality. I'm the most expensive coach that you can't wait to hire. And so let's take that apart for a minute. I'm the most expensive coach, which already says, oh, this is going to hurt a little bit. But the second part is that you can't wait to hire. Why? Because it's going to turn out so well. There's going to be an ROI for that investment. And, about an hour ago, I was coaching one of my clients. He's getting ready to roll out a new program, and I was giving him some pointers on the what he calls stage selling. He's doing it in a webinar. And I think you come right out and say, before I tell you the price, I'm going to tell you there's probably 3 different groups in the audience right now. There's a small group who are going to choke on it and go, oh my God, that's ridiculous. I can never afford that. I totally get that. I'm not made for everybody. There's going to be people up, a smaller group up here that are going to go, this is outrageous. How can it be so inexpensive? I'm on it right now. And then there's going to be people in the middle who go, that's really not bad, but I think I should think about it. Here's the deal. This program, what you want to think about, you want to remember 2 things. It's a year-long program. At the end of that year, you stop paying me. You stop investing in your business if you want. Most of my people continue with me, but if you stop investing, everything we've done continues to produce higher revenue in your business. So you're making an investment now for 12 months. And honestly, it should hurt because it's going to pay off for years. So if you choke on the price, it's okay. I give you permission to choke on it. But just know this. I'm going to be the most expensive coach that you can't wait to hire, or something like that. Now, I'm telling you, if whoever's watching this, Ben, that right there just made the entire thing worthwhile. And I'm going to pause real quick because I'm going to do something else. I'm going to reveal something. What I just did for you and your audience is I just brought the ultimate amount of chutzpah and cojones. Did I just come across and deliver hope and certainty? I ask you, did I?
Yeah, sign me up.
All right. Well, see, that's what I just did there. That's how you got to bring that to every situation, because there's a small group of people are going, what an egomaniac. Who the hell does Jim think he is? And then there's people going, God, that guy sounds like he really knows what he's talking about. And all I need is a big enough group out of this pile of people to make a nice business for myself and keep me in diesel fuel. So you have to bring that A game every day. And that's I just kind of gave a lesson, but I also gave an example of what it looks like.
And I'd just like to add to that, and I'm so glad that our conversation has gone in this direction. But those people who think that you're crazy, and there will always be those people,
Sure.
they're not going to pay you anyways.
That's right.
You don't want to work with them anyways, because even if for some reason you are such a ninja assassin of a salesperson that you got them to pay you, they would probably take up so much of your time and be like the least awesome clients, like the worst clients, that it would make it a nightmare for you, and you don't want to have to deal with that. You really don't.
So, another way to look at it is, if I have 10 clients at $500, just for easy math, that's $5,000 in monthly revenue. And if my price is $97, what do I got to have? Like 50. I mean, it's completely reversed. So do you want to be juggling 50 people who, I guarantee this is also to be true, the lower your price point, the more demanding they will be. At the upper end of the scale, and it's just as easy to close upper end people, there might be fewer of them, but I would much rather have 10 people at 500 than 50 people at, at 10 or 100, whatever that math is. And so the point is, the people who appreciate that knowledge, I actually had 2 calls yesterday with some of my clients who, on a half an hour call, we were about 20 or 22 minutes in. I always kind of keep an eye on the clock, because I usually go from one call to the next. And they go, "I'm good, Jim. I'm going to give you the next 12 minutes to go look at the sunrise or whatever you're doing up there. I'm good. I got everything I need." And I say, "Great. I'll talk to you later." And we end the call. And see, when you work with people and they pay, they're looking for the answer, the solution. They're looking for the widget, the turn, the twist, the thing that's going to take them to the next level. And when they find it, they're off to the races. They're not going, "All right, what else you got for the next 8 minutes?" Not that there's anything wrong with that. Most people do want to get the full 30, but the more you pay, the higher caliber of customer or client you're going to get.
That's huge. That really is huge. So, Jim, I want to thank you for sharing all that you have. And I feel like we went on some wonderful tangents. And I'm very grateful for all the information that you shared and being willing to kind of dance with me and explore those areas. So thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome. I think you got a great show there, and I know you're serving and you're growing your audience, and I hope this show will just help you do that. And because that's the cool thing about the internet is you and I have a great conversation. Despite however many people are watching, we're having a great conversation, and people are digging it, hopefully, and there's people getting some good information. So it's good for you. It might be good for me, but it's obviously going to be good for them also. That's the power of this whole podcast world that we're in.
Absolutely. So I have a couple more questions for you.
Okay.
Then we'll go ahead and wrap up. In my opinion, one of the foundations of humanity is connection. And I'm interested to learn, what is your philosophy on developing deep, meaningful, and genuine connection with another human being?
Wow, that's a question that really rings true right now. For anybody that's followed me on social media or things like that, first of all, a couple of years ago, I published an audio book called Serve First. So it's not only a life philosophy, it actually works in business also. You serve first and you grow from there. When Stephanie and I took our boat down to Florida this past fall, we were in St. Augustine, Florida, and I spotted this gentleman who turned out to be about 69 years old, sitting on this bench. And he was homeless. And so one morning, I get up every morning, go for an early walk. And I just went up and I said, "Excuse me, sir, are you hungry?" He goes, "Yes, sir, I am." So I gave him a couple bagels. And that was about it. And he said to me, "I just want you to know I don't drink and I don't do drugs. And I really appreciate the food." And what's interesting to me, Ben, is that while we do serve and not only with our money and our time, but one of my hangups sometimes about in a situation like that is I don't want my money to go to drugs or alcohol. That's why I gave food. And it was interesting to me that his response to me for giving 2 bagels was quelling the objections that I have, which, by the way, there's a sales lesson in there, but we're not going there. And so I brought him, I said, "Are you here?" He goes, "I'm here every day." So the next morning, long story short, I developed a relationship with this person, found out that after losing his wife of 25 years, he got on a bicycle, left South Carolina, ended up in Florida. And he actually ended up in another town in Florida and just couldn't find what's in. And he was a man of faith. And he said, I prayed and I think God told me to come to St. Augustine. And he said, literally, I'm sitting here on this bench and I'm praying, why am I in St. Augustine? And he goes, Jim, that's when you walked up and gave me the bagels. And this was after we got to know each other over a period of a week or something. And so after I started learning his situation, turns out that when he left, he had a South Carolina driver's license that expired. Now he's got not only no money, he sleeps in the woods, and he can't like get his life together because he can't get an ID because he doesn't have a birth certificate. So I went over one day, took my iPad and connected to the internet through my iPhone, and we put in some information on our website, and 10 days later, we had his birth certificate, which he then took and got a Florida ID. We then took that to Social Security and filed for the benefits, which he was entitled to. Here's the man with he doesn't have two nickels to rub together. And turns out he got a check for all of his back pay that it was due. And he's getting a check now for $940 a month. And he's not homeless anymore. Now, one of the things I got as a lesson, this is really, I don't know how we go here, but you asked me a question. This is immediately what came to my mind to share this. And so we were there for about 6 weeks, and George and I became friends. I mean, he's family. We're like brothers, literally. And we talk to each other at least once or twice a week still. And he's calling me, telling me he's apartment hunting. You know, he's looking for his own. He's in a motel now, but he's looking for an apartment. And when we were getting ready to leave St. Augustine, I told George, I feel God nudging me to tell this story, because I think as I'm in the entrepreneurial world, I come across people who are always, oh, I'm going to feed 1 billion people, or I'm going to build schools all over Africa, or I'm going to do this, that. And there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes people don't get into action because the goal is too insurmountable. And so I said, I've got this message that one person helping one person, if everybody does that, we would like change the planet. And he goes, I like that, Jim. Now, I didn't share too much about what I have done, and I didn't tell him we live on a yacht and that I've written all these books. And George goes to me, he goes, you know what, Jim? I've been thinking of writing a book about my homeless experience. I'm like, really? He had a 6th grade education. He's telling me he wants to write a book. And I said, George, and I told him what I just told you. And he goes, well, that's pretty interesting. And I said, would you do a video interview with me? I'll have Stephanie just record us, and you can tell your experience that way, and I'll edit it and I'll put it out on the internet. And he said, yeah, I'd like to do that. I thought he would say no, just not wanting to appear on camera. So we recorded the video. It's been seen, I don't know, 300 or 400 times, not a huge deal. But my point in the connecting, what you asked me, Ben, if everybody, every human being could just help one person who's struggling, or in a bad way, in a struggling situation, this planet would be such a better place. One person helping one person. That's my belief.
That's powerful. That really is powerful. And I can't wait to read that book. I hope it's coming out.
I'll share the link with the video if you want to see it. You know, me interviewing George, and it came out really well. We cut a lot of he really went deep, and I cut a lot of his personal stuff out, but it's more the journey and the sharing and how people, when George called me, Stephanie and I were up here in Chesapeake Bay in Maryland, and he called me and he told me, Jim, I got my check. I got a bank account in my name. And they called me Mr. Gregory. And I actually walked in to a thrift store to buy some new clothes. And he goes, I feel like a real person now. And I'm thinking, here's this man who worked his life and had a good life, but he got really rocked when his world got broken apart, and he just kind of took off. But then such circumstances change where suddenly he's homeless and he can't fix that, right? Because he didn't have a computer, doesn't have to look things up. So anyway, all I did was help him get his things together, and now he's going to be okay.
What's your greatest theory?
Greatest theory? Geez, I don't know. I thought I just shared that. I don't know. My greatest theory, as it relates to business or just life in general?
Whatever comes to mind first.
Well, I think I just shared in life. I think we are here to serve each other. We are here to serve each other. In my own personal belief, we're here to honor God, but we're here to serve each other. And I think, again, that's life and business. Isn't it interesting? The reason you have a business is to serve your customers. So never forget that. And I think as in my theory about success in business is this: you will earn significantly more income for who you are than what you do. It's not about the deliverable. Like in your case, Ben, doing social media and things like that. I guarantee you can 10x your income if we were to build amazing celebrity brand. So you're the go-to person, not the person who just does this. I'm just picking on you a little bit, but it's more about who you are and much less about what you do.
I think that's a huge takeaway. I think that's a huge, huge takeaway.
You're not going to ask me a question. It'll take me another 15 minutes, are you?
No, I just have two more questions for you.
Okay.
The first is there anything about yourself that you think is an important part of who you are that we did not talk about today? In other words, what did I miss?
I think we covered a lot. Yeah, I don't know, Ben. I really, one of the things I learned, again, from my mentor, Dan Kennedy, that one of the things that will, in the coaching space, let's just go there, we'll go niche. One of the things that will tend to cause coaching clients to stay with you for less time. So I'm struggling with language. How do I say that so it doesn't mangle? But to leave sooner is when you breed familiarity and when you allow people to get too close to you. In other words, it's what I just said about it's who you are. Like, oh my God, that's that person. But then they get to know you. And it's like, well, oh, he's just a regular guy or a regular gal. And so that familiarity, it's kind of taking the shine off a little bit when they find out you're just a regular person. You might be talented at what you do. So I know that to be true in business, but by nature, I love to work with people and I do let people get close. And I have many friends that became friends. So, there's some wisdom in there somewhere, and I don't know, which way to go, but that's what I would share with you.
So, Jim, again, I want to thank you for coming on the show today. Is there anything that, and I'm 24, by the way, and I say that because it's relevant to the question. Is there anything that I should be asking you, specifically you with your knowledge, wisdom, your genius? Is there anything that I should be asking you that I just wouldn't think to ask?
Jim, what did you wish you knew at 24 that you now know at 60? And I would say, stop waiting for it to get easier. When we moved on this boat, we had to put a lot of things in storage because eventually we'll move off the boat. But there's one thing that I grabbed. I'm going to grab it here on my shelf. This was in my office, and I got this after I had cancer to always remind myself, Ben, hope you can see that. It's an hourglass, and the sand is always running out, and you can't stop it. Another way that I say that is, you and I and everybody that's watching, we are playing on the main stage right now. This is not a dress rehearsal. And sooner or later, and I learned this when I was 41, thankfully I'm still here. I'm literally, thank God I'm still here. But for about 6 weeks, I didn't know if I was going to be alive in 5 years. And that's when I really got this. And so we're on the main stage right now. Sooner or later, the curtain's going to come down. And in those last hours, if you're, it's not a tragedy, like hit by a train or something. In those last hours, are you going to regret the chances you didn't take? Most people, they don't regret the things they chose to do, even if they turned out badly. They regret the things that they didn't do. It's one of the reasons Stephanie and I sold our house and bought this boat now instead of waiting until we fully retire, is because, well, we don't know what's going to happen. We've been shocked with some situations, so we're going to live now. I mean, I think we're still pretty careful. We're still putting away, and 401ks are growing, but we chose to live life to the fullest right now. And so the people who are waiting, If you've got an entrepreneurial business and you're waiting for some mythical time, or when you're waiting for things to get easier, my message is this: stop waiting for it to get easier. Get into action right now.
That's profound. And Jim, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really do appreciate the time that we've been able to share together. And I just want to say thank you.
You're welcome, Ben. My pleasure.
And to everybody who's listening, watching, I want to thank y'all. Thank you for sticking with us all the way till the end. I love y'all very, very much, and I'm very appreciative of your support. And I will see you on the next episode.